Well, it's 3:30 in the morning here in the capital, Tehran. You're watching Press TV's Top 5 with me and Kenny's Fatima. Many thanks for joining us this hour. Now, Iran's President Hassan Rouhani has renewed criticism of foreign interference in the Middle East, urging regional countries to resolve their problems through dialogue. Now, Hassan Rouhani made the remarks after a meeting with the Parliament Speaker Ali Larijani and the Judiciary Chief Sadeq Larijani. The Iranian president said arrogant powers have always been seeking to spread terrorism, create insecurity and instability in the Middle East. He said such powers often pit regional countries against each other to increase their arms sales. He noted that they had made futile attempts to change the geographical borders in the Middle East. Rouhani further said that the recent U.S. stance on the Iran nuclear deal is part of the plots Washington has been hatching against the Islamic Republic. Joining us via Skype from Bristol is Tony Gosling. He's an investigative journalist. Many thanks for joining us here on Press TV, Mr. Gosling. Now, as President Rouhani said, it is foreign interference that stokes instability within the Middle East. But would ending foreign interference in the Middle East end the region's woes, in your opinion?
Yes, I think it would, rather quickly. But the thing is, which foreign interference? I think many people point to the interference of the United States as the major player here at the Security Council, for example, vetoing resolutions against Israel. But I think actually, in a way, the Israelis are in many ways behind a lot of this. The Israel lobby is very, very powerful in the United States. America, I'm afraid, is not a democracy. As we saw with the recent presidential elections, we're just given two representatives of the power elite to vote for. The Americans are anyway, not because I'm here in Britain. But that's not really a democracy, is it, when you just get two potential tyrants to vote for? America's occupied its media and its government. And the mafia are very much involved. If you look at Trump's background, William Engdahl's brilliant article explains he has a background in casinos, and the mafia have supported him. He has to go crawling back to the mafia for money. And the mafia it was that killed John F. Kennedy. We've just had this file release, haven't we, with Kennedy, but they won't report that it was the Chicago mafia that killed him, and any of the mainstream press in the West at all. So we've got a media and we've got a government that's really occupied, and actually it's acting in the interests of the Crusader state in Israel. And so I think the American people, they want peace, but their government simply, and the Pentagon simply won't give it to them.
Right, Mr. Gosling, it's not just Israel, though, is it? It's also corporate America, which sets to benefit from arms sales, for example, and all this upheaval in the region.
Well, there are people, actually, it was my father said to me a few months ago, he said, nobody wants war, Tony. I'm afraid there are people that do want war, and they want war for one reason, and that is cash. They like setting one person against another because they know they can sell more arms. And this is becoming more and more pernicious as privatization happens here in the West, where you've got private military companies and you've got private arms companies who stand to gain from foreign wars. What happens is through lobby groups like the Royal Institute for International Affairs in London and the Council on Foreign Relations in the United States, is they pour millions, if not billions of dollars and pounds into the lobbying of the Foreign Office and the State Department. So that's how it works. You're quite right. The corporations are very much to blame. And it's not just the arms companies. It's also those that want to come in and exploit the resources. But let me just say, for the record, the Chinese are guilty of this too. They also come in and they want resources from, for example, a lot of the countries in North Africa have had this too. You got to have a look at what the plans for the Americans, by the Americans, are for the world, by looking at some of their plans which they publish openly. For example, in the Armed Forces Journal, Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters has a map of the Middle East he wants to see. Another person is General Thomas Barnett. He drew this whole map of the world where all of the countries that wouldn't integrate into the US plan for the world, he calls them the non-integrating gap countries, are going to be destabilised. And that's exactly what we're seeing around the world. So the plan is out there on the internet, as they say in the X-Files. The truth is out there if you go and look for it. And it seems like Rouhani has been looking for it and finding it.
Okay, that's investigative journalist Tony Gosling joining us via Skype from Bristol. Mr. Gosling, as always, thank you very much indeed for sharing your thoughts here on Press TV.